skinny ass bitch. Let's roll!
What it might be like for you and some things that you might want to expect when going to an American high school as an immigrant or as an exchange student. I have a particular knowledge on this because I myself, despite my accent, I was an immigrant to the United States, and I started, I started school actually before high school, but it's still the same kind of thing. I had to assimilate to a very different culture, even coming from an English-speaking country, England. I remember I moved to the USA, and when I moved to the USA, I moved to the southeast of the US, and I remember the first conversation that I had with one of my teachers. I walked up to one of my teachers and I introduced myself. I said, my name and that kind of thing, and she looked at me and she said, "Are you speaking English right now?" So she hadn't understood a word that I said, despite my coming from an English-speaking country. So I can imagine how hard it might be for some of you. So the first thing you might find interesting about going to high school in the United States is you actually have a choice of some of your classes. Now, obviously, you're going to have certain classes that you have to take, or certain levels that you need to pass in order to get your high school diploma. But at the high school I went to, you had 5 classes that were mandatory, and then you had 2 electives, is what we call them, in which you could choose. You could just choose 2 of the classes that you wanted to take. And so some examples might be, you could take Latin language, arts, another foreign language. You could take advanced mathematics, those creative writing courses, even things like woodshop, where they teach you to build and about architecture. You have an automotive class in which you would actually have hands-on experience in fixing cars and that sort of thing. And if you could have your car, or if you had a car, you could actually bring it to the school and they would fix it for you, have the students fix it for you at a discounted rate, which was really practical. So as well, we had other elective courses like home ec, in which you would literally walk into a classroom and there's kitchens and burners and ovens, and they teach you how to cook. I went to a high school where as well the high school students could actually bring their children, and they'd bring their children, and that was a class. The class was to learn how to take care of children, learn how to basically be a mother and things that you needed to do. I don't actually know all the details because I never took that class, but anyway. So let's talk about the first day of school. And in talking about the first day of school, we really need to talk about the kind of culture that is in American high schools. And it's very much a culture of groups and of cliques. A clique is sort of a group within a group. And you've probably seen on TV shows and movies and that kind of thing where sort of people of the same kind will kind of stay together, and they kind of only hang out with those people, and they eat lunch together, sit at the same table at the cafeteria. Is it really like that? Yeah, it's almost exactly like that. You might have the jocks or football players all kind of hanging out together, and the cheerleaders all hanging out together, and half the time, the cheerleaders are often the jocks. Jock is a sports player, different sports, lacrosse, football, soccer, that kind of thing, are often, they'll have girlfriends that are the cheerleaders. And then you might have the call them prep kids. You know, I don't even know if that's politically correct anymore. Call them preps, students that dress very nice. They dress very nicely, and they, you know, wore kind of designer clothing and that kind of thing. And then you'd have, you know, kind of your smart kids would all kind of hang out together, you know, kind of top of the class, the kids that were most interested in studying. Then you kind of have like the nerds that all stick together, and then you'd have kind of the ugly ducklings, and I don't know, there's loads of them, and there's even kind of cliques within those cliques. And what's interesting is that, you know, everybody in American high schools kind of identify as something, and they kind of have an identity. And part of their identity is the group that they hang out with or the clique that they're in. So very quickly, you will kind of establish your identity when moving to America and starting at a high school. And your identity will begin from the very moment that you walk through those doors at the high school. You know, people are going to size you up. I mean, everything from how your hair is cut to the type of shoes that you're wearing. And you'll be kind of classified, if you like, by your appearance and by your actions and by your first impressions. And you have to be very careful, because once you sort of establish your identity as being a certain type of person, it's very difficult to break that, if not impossible. So when you go to your first day of school, be ready to kind of be the person, you know, that you are. And people pay attention to who you hang out with, who you talk to, who you associate with. And they kind of will classify you as that type of person. So watch out for that. Another thing that you might find interesting on your first day of school is that it's very likely that you will have to go through metal detectors. You know, you have to go through metal detectors like at an airport. You know, they'll probably check your bag. You have to take your keys and your phone out of your pockets, and you may be met by a police officer. You know, at the school gate. And in almost all high schools, they have police officers anyway. So there are police officers there, and you know, if you get out of hand, then you'll be confronted by the police officer, and they do take action depending on what the situation is, how serious it is, and that kind of thing. And be prepared, because you will always be, everything that you do will be on camera. They have CCTVs, and you know, almost all the schools and hallways, and you know, some of the classrooms, depending on the school that you go to. Another thing that you might find bizarre or almost even shocking on your first day, and really every day that you're in an American school, is that when you first get to class, you will pledge your allegiance to America. You'll pledge your allegiance to the flag of the United States of America every day, which seems, you know, from someone coming from the outside, it almost seems strange. You know, everybody stands up, you put your hand over your heart, and you pledge your allegiance to America, which is, well, I mean, you know, I guess it's interesting. Another thing, don't be surprised if nobody knows anything about your country. They might not know what continent it's on. It's very likely that they know absolutely nothing about your country. You know, it's just one of those things, because a lot of I think it's 2/3 or something of Americans have never left America, especially at that age. Most of them have never left America, and they don't really know much about it. So, or about other countries, about geography, and that.
Can you name any country on this map?
Yes. Africa.
That's a continent.
Oh, country. Greenland.
Or Iceland or something?
That's Alaska. Any country.
No.
And on the entire map.
This is so horrible.
Where's America?
I would say this big one, but I'm probably wrong.
You're definitely wrong.
Okay.
Can you name any country on this map?
Oh my gosh. Shouldn't I be taught this in school?
I would hope so.
Kind of thing, about other cultures and governments. It's not really something that they specialize in. But what you can get from high school that's really great in America is that you get almost everything that you do is hands-on. It's a very practical way of learning, and it's very individualistic. They pride themselves and really push sort of individualism and creative thinking and creative writing. You'll even take creative writing and thinking courses. When you're, different science classes and things, you'll actually be like in a lab, hands-on, mixing chemicals and dissecting animals and in computer class, obviously, you're going to be computer technology classes. You're going to be on computers. Everything you're going to do is hands-on, home ec. You're actually really going to be cooking and putting things in the oven. And, auto shop. You're going to be really working on cars and doing things. Building shop. I forget the name of it. Construction class or something like that. You'll actually be learning how to real world read blueprints, and you'll be using saws and, everything practically be building. Actually, building things. And that's really great. As well as, when you're in American high school, you have to think about universities. And in order to get into good universities, you want to have the highest level of diploma that you can have. But it also counts quite a lot, the kind of extracurricular activities that you take part in. And universities really look at that, and that really means a lot. There's loads of different there's a lot of my high school actually had a television station where students ran a television station that we watched every morning. We had a newspaper that you can read. I don't know if they do that anymore. Probably have like applications or something on telephones that they make. But my school had a newspaper. They have math clubs and debate clubs and language clubs, French clubs, any kind of extracurricular activity that you can take part in, will actually, it'll help you get into a better university, and it's really something to look into. Something else that you might find interesting is that high school sports are a really big thing. They take it really seriously, especially football. In the South, and especially kind of throughout Texas, and football, and I mean American football when I say football, not soccer, is a really big thing. The football games are a really big thing, and it's taken really seriously. And part of the reason is because college or universities, if you're really good at a sport, you don't have to pay the $25,000 a year or however much it is to go to that university. They usually get to go for free if they are, if you're incredibly good at a sport, you're a good football player or track and field or whatever the case may be. You may get a free ride into university, and it's actually even looked at even more favorably than academics. But of course, you can. You can get what we call a free ride or go to university free through an academic scholarship. What you might find interesting as well is that a lot of high school students already have cars and they drive themselves to school every morning. The thing of it is that really by international standards, cars in America are quite cheap. You can get it you can get a car. I think I paid $600 for my first car, which is, almost nothing. And even now, you can get something that drives for $1,000, and and you might find surprising that a lot of high school students are already working. A lot of them already have jobs that they work after school. They work on the weekends. Some of them actually have internships, those of which they don't get paid for. So in American high schools, you will probably get only one break of 30 to 40 minutes, something like that, to have lunch. Other than that, you probably won't have any breaks. Some schools have a little bit of a break, but that's pretty much all you'll get. Also, what I've noticed about other countries, and I didn't even know this was a thing before, but in America, you have a different classroom for each class. So you actually move from classroom to classroom. Teachers have their own class, that's their classroom. So you'll be the one to go from class to class to class. And usually you'll have about 4 minutes, something like, I think it was 4 minutes, to go to your locker. It's another thing as well, you have a locker so you don't have to carry all of your books, which is quite convenient. But you'll have that 4 minutes, kind of exchange a couple of words with friends, quick potty break, really quick potty break or bathroom break, and get your book from your locker. In terms of cell phones really differ a lot from school to school and even from class to class within the school. Some schools may not let you bring your phone into the school at all, and some schools may allow you to keep it in your bag or in your pocket and use it in between classes, and some schools and some teachers may even allow you to have it out, just kind of sitting on your desk, as you have your classes, just sitting right there. Obviously you can't use it while in class unless the teacher tells you can to. It might be the case you have to Google something or something like that. They may allow you to use it. But that's one that really just depends on the school district that you're in. So lunchtime. Lunchtime is one of the best times of the day. They'll already have a lunch prepared, or you can bring your own lunch. You'll pay a few dollars. I remember my school on Fridays, they would order pizza, like Domino's pizza. They would order it and bring it in. You'd pay it was a little bit more expensive, I think, and you'd pay like per slice of pizza. So that's pretty interesting. What you might find bizarre is that a lot of high schools have like Coke machines and things like that. You just go right in there and just get yourself a Coke. Well, I think that about wraps it up. I don't want to talk about every little nitty-gritty detail or keep you here all day, but those are the broad strokes of what it's like being in an American high school. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. Again, this is just talking about my experience that I had at a particular high school, and it's been a little while. So hopefully you got something out of it. Thank you very much for joining me. Take care, guys.